This one truth will change how you see your life forever, because one choice creates your entire path. If you're looking for motivation, wisdom, and life lessons, take the path of purpose.
What is the purpose of suffering? What is the purpose of suffering? It is a question we ask in the darkest moments of our lives. When we lose someone we love, when we are betrayed, when we are brought to our knees by illness, heartbreak, or failure. In those moments, suffering seems senseless, cruel, and unbearable. But as long as humanity has existed, people have turned to this question in search of understanding. And while no answer can take away the pain, history, philosophy, faith, and human experience offer us something far greater. Meaning, suffering is not new. It has walked beside humanity from the beginning. The ancient Greeks believed suffering was inseparable from the human condition. In Greek tragedy, figures like Oedipus and Antigone endure unbearable pain not because they are evil, but because life itself is filled with trials. The purpose of tragedy was to evoke catharsis, a purging of emotion that leads to insight and growth. Through their suffering, characters revealed deeper truths about life, justice, and fate. The Stoics, led by thinkers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, believed suffering was not something to be avoided, but something to be mastered. They taught that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Epictetus, once a slave, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." To the Stoics, suffering was the raw material from which strength is forged. In Eastern traditions, suffering takes on another dimension. Buddhism teaches that suffering dukkha's an inescapable part of life, caused by desire and attachment. But it also teaches that suffering can be transcended through wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness. The Four Noble Truths begin by acknowledging suffering, not denying it, and the path to enlightenment begins not by avoiding pain, but by understanding it. In Hinduism, suffering is often viewed through the lens of karma and the cycle of rebirth. Pain may arise from actions in this life or a previous one, but it is also a chance for spiritual growth. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, suffering is also central. The story of Job is one of the oldest and most profound explorations of undeserved suffering. Job loses his wealth, his children, and his health, yet never fully loses his faith. He demands answers, but God's response is not to explain everything but to remind Job of the vastness and mystery of creation. The lesson is that even in suffering, meaning exists 7, if it is beyond our understanding. Jesus, at the center of Christianity, is not a figure who avoided suffering, but one who embraced it. His crucifixion, known of the most brutal forms of execution, becomes the symbol of redemption, forgiveness, and love. Suffering is not glorified, but it is transformed. Through suffering, something sacred is born. History shows us that suffering often precedes transformation. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. During that time, he lost his freedom, endured hardship, and was cut off from his people. But in that crucible, he was not broken. He emerged with a vision of reconciliation, not revenge. He used suffering as a teacher, and because of that, South Africa found a path to peace. Viktor Frankl, a Jewish psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz, wrote one of the most powerful books ever written on suffering, Man's Search for Meaning. In it, he said, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." He observed that in the face of unimaginable horror, those who found meaning even in suffering were the ones who survived. Frankel's suffering did not destroy him. It deepened his understanding of the human spirit. He did not ask, "Why did this happen to me?" Instead, he asked, "What can I do with this?" And this is the heart of it. Suffering, while painful, can also be purposeful. It strips away illusion. It reveals our strength. It forces us to confront who we are. In suffering, we find out what matters. We discover what we're made of. And we find empathy for others who walk through fire. There is a reason the most compassionate people are often those who have suffered most. They know what pain feels like. They carry scars, but they use those scars to help others heal. Out of their suffering, they grow in wisdom and compassion. Mother Teresa once said, "Suffering is nothing by itself, but suffering shared with the passion of Christ is a wonderful gift." Whether or not you are religious, the idea is clear. Suffering becomes meaningful when it is connected to love. Modern science too acknowledges the power of suffering to change us. Psychologists call it post-traumatic growth. After hardship, many people report a greater appreciation for life, deeper relationships, increased inner strength, and a stronger sense of purpose. Pain can break us, but it can also awaken us. It humbles us. It refines us. It teaches us to let go of ego, to value presence, to love fiercely. Does this mean suffering is good? No. Suffering is not something we should wish for, glorify, or romanticize. Pain is real. Grief is real. Trauma is real. But it means we can choose what we do with our suffering. We can turn it into bitterness, or we can turn it into wisdom. We can let it isolate us, or let it connect us. We can use it to destroy, or use it to create. The greatest works of art, music, literature, and innovation have often come from people who suffered. Beethoven composed symphonies while going deaf. Frida Kahlo painted her pain into vibrant beauty. Maya Angelou transformed trauma into poetry that gave others hope. Their suffering did not define them, but it deepened their voice. Even in everyday life, suffering shapes us. The parent who sacrifices for their child, the nurse who works through exhaustion to save lives, the student who studies late into the night despite depression, the person who gets up one more time after being knocked down. In each of these stories, there is purpose, there's dignity, there's the quiet heroism of enduring. So what is the purpose of suffering? It teaches, it transforms, it awakens, it reveals, it connects. It reminds us that we are fragile and yet unbreakable. It reminds us that joy is not found in avoiding pain, but in living fully, even through the pain. There's an ancient Japanese art called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold. The cracks are not hidden, they are highlighted. The object becomes more beautiful for having been broken. That is what suffering can do to us. It can fill our cracks with gold. It can make us more whole than we were before. But we must choose to let it. We must choose to grow, to rise, to become. We must help others do the same. We must not let suffering close our hearts but open them. We must not become numb but more alive. The question is not whether we will suffer. We all will. The question is, what will we do with it? Will we hide from it, or face it? Will we let it break us, or remake us? Will we run from the fire, or walk through it tanned, come out stronger. Suffering is part of the human story, but it does not have to be the end of the story. It can be the beginning of something new, a new strength, a new purpose, a new compassion. We may not choose our pain, but we can choose what it makes of us. Let it make you deeper. Let it make you wiser. Let it make you kinder. And then use your life to ease the suffering of others. That, perhaps, is the greatest purpose of all.